On behalf of the province of the Eastern Cape, led by Honorable Premier Mabuyane, I welcome everyone here. Honorable Premier, His Excellencies, I'll share the countries that are joining us as we run the program down. Our DG, Mr. Mbulelo Sokoni, our investors, our partners, our guests, everyone. There is someone to welcome you to this event. You are all welcome to our investor networking session. My name is Miki Mama. I'm the head of Department for Economic Development, Environmental Affairs and Tourism, mouthful, in the Eastern Cape. Maybe just to bring all our thoughts and our minds here, the economy is distressed globally. So we're all trying to find our feet to do better. So this platform, we have invited all of you here and virtually to tap on your brains, on your ideas, on your thoughts. We'll appreciate wild, innovative thoughts and ideas on how to grow our economy, but also, more importantly, how to retain you as investors, but leave here with more investors and more commitments. So with those few words, I'm going to invite a chairperson of the Eastern Cape Development Corporation, Mr. Jahana, to welcome you as the host to this evening event. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Honorable Premier, Captains of Industry here present, our ambassadors who are here and also joining us virtually, the investors in the Eastern Cape and the prospective investors whom we want to encourage through this engagement tonight to consider the enormous opportunities that sits in the Eastern economy. Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the Eastern Cape government, I want to extend our warm welcome to you for joining us tonight to engage with us as we share thoughts and ideas, but most importantly, an opportunity to showcase some of the progress we are making in creating an environment conducive for investment in the Eastern Cape. We gather tonight on the eve of the 5th South Africa Investment Conference in order to listen to you and explore the opportunities in the Eastern Cape. We are grateful for your generosity and giving us time to interact with us. Eastern Cape is acutely aware of the need to create an environment conducive for your investment. We have to build confidence that we are the right destination for your investment. We know that to do this, it takes a lot of effort. Never before have I seen a government committed in the province to create this kind of conducive environment, looking at investment in economic infrastructure that will meet the demands of you, the investors. But it's also about sharing ideas. We can only present the work we are doing, as you will see different agencies interacting with you, showcases some of the progress we are making. The Premier will address you in detail with regards to what is happening in the Eastern Cape. But mine was to welcome you and say, Eastern Cape is a province full of potential, full of opportunity. We are working very closely as ECDC with all the agencies of the state. In 2 weeks ago, we sat together as agencies to find ways of collaborating, including municipal agencies, so that we can actually deal with the issues of enabling environment, dealing with bureaucracy, but also looking at where there are challenges of infrastructure, which needs a sharing of skills, pooling of skills. We believe that across the agencies in the Eastern Cape, there's enough skills to deal with some of these challenges, but what is needed was better coordination. We have started the journey. With those few words, I would like to welcome you and thank you for coming. We want to listen to some of your thoughts, some of your ideas in order to build a better Eastern Cape and create jobs and prosperity in the province that we call home, the home of legends. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you, Chair. So, Premier, so much uncertainty surrounds us. There were few comments when we were having coffee, like buying time, and others were saying they've been here before, but we trust that under your leadership, they will leave definitely sure of what is required. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, the Program Director. I just can't remember hearing you introducing yourself as an HOD for Economic Development, Environmental Affairs and Tourism. So, greetings to the leadership present here, Your Excellencies. I've been briefed about the presence of a couple of our head of missions, but also the ambassadors, ambassador also from Belarus, and other ambassadors present here. Perhaps, shall I say, distinguished guests, good evening or good afternoon to you all. Last week I had a 3-day visit to a country called UAE on a special invitation by His Royal Highness and the President of that country. What I saw in that country inspired me, Prof, a lot. It's a country without democracy. It's a country that has got no confusion on succession. When I was there just 2 days before a crowned prince was announced. So people there know that in the next decade or so, who's going to be the president in that country. It's a small country of just less than 3 million population, but people who are residing there are more than 11 million. In that, you have got just above 140,000 South Africans who are feeling comfortable there. Some of our companies are relocating there, and what I saw, it's sort of a congruent point. Everyone goes there. Whether you want to go east, south, north, west, you start there. I've never seen such a hectic international airport like that one. Then I've realized that leadership is key on everything. I really don't want to waste your time, but I'm joined here by the delegation to this network section that is comprising of the professionals who are leading our provincial administration. As it was indicated earlier, that Director General is here himself, but also the chief executive officers of our SOEs. This is the 5th year attending the South African Investment Conference, which I think it's a great initiative by our government to enhance economic growth in our country. Let me therefore appreciate all of you for accepting our invitation to this networking session. This is a platform for us to sell our province to you as potential investors. First and foremost, I must highlight that we have a story of good progress on economic growth and employment in the Eastern Cape. Our province has reported a 3rd consecutive decrease in unemployment as stated by Quarterly Labour Force Survey for the 4th quarter of 2022. The Quarterly Labour Force Survey reflects that the number of employed people increased in our province, which definitely means that there is a negative impact on high unemployment. We're coming from a very low base. I feel like some of things that we are busy trying to do Had we did them in 1994, Prof, we would not be where we are as a province. I'm not trying to say there would have been something wrong with what has been happening. I think it has all been about attempting to do something. But again, the issue of leadership, from where I'm standing, becomes key. This positive trajectory for economic growth and job creation was made possible by the cumulative 171 billion rand that the sixth administration has attracted to our economy, and that has created over 21,500 jobs for our people. In 2022 alone, we attracted 11 new investors at our provincial investment conference with a combined value of 46 billion. I've told our economic cluster that we must go out aggressively to pursue more investors to build on the phenomenal work we have done. Our approach now changes to make better use of our embassies to pursue what we call economic diplomacy. I'm coming from a very successful trip, as I've indicated, from UAE, and I'm seeing that, and of course we're planning another one soon for Tunisia, Ghana, and Egypt before the end of this year. The drastic drop in the unemployment rate is an extra motivation for us to redouble our effort, because it demonstrates that the interventions we've made are bearing fruits. The interventions I'm talking about are articulated in our economic reconstruction and recovery plan, which we developed to a mechanism to rebound our economy post-COVID-19. Through the Provincial Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, we are focusing on 5 key areas, which are infrastructure development, as the chairperson of the ECDC has indicated. We definitely clear that we really needed to look for the expansionary fiscal arrangement, induce the economy, invest in infrastructure, stimulate the economy of our province. Yes, of course, ours should be more the preoccupation with microeconomics, whilst we are leaving that space of macroeconomics with the national government. The industrialization and sector development is part of what we're focusing at: equitable, inclusive transformation, digital transformation, and public finance. On infrastructure development, it is the heart of our economic reconstruction and recovery plan. We must remind you, honored guests, that we are a largely rural province, which was neglected by the apartheid regime in terms of infrastructure development. Once we pass the hurdle of infrastructure under development, greater opportunity for economic growth and jobs await us on the other side. Our focus on infrastructure is mainly roads, rail, and port infrastructure to improve logistics and thereby reduce cost of doing business in our province. The team will present a detailed plan here to show some of the work that we're doing, but let me highlight the 2 mega bridges of Msikaba and Mtendu in OR Tambo and Alfred Nzo as game changers for eastern side of our province, which links the Eastern Cape and KZN. That is an area that is prime land for agriculture and tourism. Therefore, we expect a lot of economic activity around those 2 sectors in the near future. It is only in the Eastern Cape where you develop infrastructure, road infrastructure, but it's not followed by economic boom. You just do it a road. It just remains like that. You spend about 700 million between Alice and Fort Beaufort. You open up the road, but nothing that follows. You do between Fort Beaufort and Queenstown, nothing that follows. So definitely, there's something that is not connecting. So clearly, we've got to look at that space quite seriously. I've been flying above the province with President. He has been consistent in commenting that something must be done in this province. You can't fly such a long distance without seeing a single factory. If you fly from Fort Beaufort to East London, you're just flying over poverty. You can only see something better when you are in East London or when you are in Gqeberha. So clearly, there is we are aligned. There's a political will to really turn around the economic fortunes of our province. We have said that we are that generation that must discover its mission and it must fulfill it. So we are really working tirelessly in ensuring that we're turning things around in our province. Our port and rail infrastructure is also receiving long overdue attention from Transnet. They recently invested 9.1 billion over 7 years into the 3 ports they manage in our province, Ngqura, PE, and East London. Others thought that it's a joke when TNPA took a decision to relocate its head office from KZN to Eastern Cape, Gqeberha. But it couldn't really make sense. How do you build a multi-million infrastructure and just leave it hanging there in the port of Ngqura? So some of those decisions are decisions that were to make sure that we are. I see you, Nquba, I know you have been consistent in saying, let's have a war room. It pains us to be in all these national entities, but we see every critical executive or developmental decision going the other way. And you are forced to do it whilst you know you are coming from the West, a poorest situation where you go home. So we really appreciate that effort, that support from people like yourselves who are reaching out to say, what can we do? More than to say what this government must do for me. Because we need that collective thinking, that collective wisdom, to really push things for better. If you talk about infrastructure development, we should be really a construction site as a province. Because this is where everything needs, actually must be done. The rail infrastructure is another area that has received, as I've said, the investment from Transnet. We, however, feel Transnet must invest more resources to receive rail infrastructure for logistics. For instance, there are large volumes of trucks traveling on N10 road between the Northern Cape and Eastern Cape daily transporting manganese ore. That volume of trucks could be largely reduced by efficient rail line from the Northern Cape to port of Ngqura. That line has been spoken about for more than 20 years, from Sesheni and all that. It's one of those issues. It's unfortunate that some of what we call catalytic, even if they are not catalytic in Eastern Cape, are projects that should have been done 20, 30 years ago. Mzimvubu, now it should be at about 22 billion. When it was conceptualized, it was just at about 8 billion. Now only first phase of that could be 8 billion. Because it was actually conceptualized in 1960 and nothing has happened since then. There's something wrong with how we actually have been doing things nationally and where we are. So we should really push ourselves to get things better. Something amazing happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our 2 economic development zones, Ngqura and East London IZ, continue to attract new investors in their platforms. This means new factories were built and operationalized, creating more jobs for our people. For instance, at the tail end of 2021, the East London Industrial Development Zone announced 3.3 billion worth of private investment. That was made possible by 16 new investing companies that are linked to Mercedes-Benz South Africa, the new Class C project, the W206. As I'm coming here, I'm getting a call that says in Stuttgart, they are not feeling comfortable because of the challenge of the energy crisis. It's a challenge, even if you think of not load shedding them as Mercedes-Benz, but the supplier components, you load shed them, the value chain doesn't. There will be no car in that the process. So we've got to really think more on how best we are able to find some of immediate solutions to address some of these problems. You can imagine if you've got Mercedes-Benz that has been there for 70 years. It actually survived all the tribulations that you can think of, but it is still there. But if Mercedes-Benz can be collapsed now simply because of this load shedding, it will be the worst thing ever we can think of CEO. So it's going to be important that we put our minds together as quick as possible and make sure that we are able to get things done. The Ngqura SEZ continue to attract investors for the jobs of the future in the form of solar cell manufacturers and hydrogen. The auto sector, which is the mainstay of our provincial economy, showed great resilience and confidence in our economy by investing more resources for plant expansion. As a result, we rolled out the assembly line in Gqeberha for the latest Isuzu Max backing. The engine for the new generation of Ford buckets assembled from Gqeberha plant. Also, all of this auto sector investment augment an earlier 13 billion investment by Mercedes-Benz in their East London plant. It is the strong commitment by auto sector that makes us eager to meet the sector halfway to address its challenges such as electricity supply and transitions to EVs. We are having the 43 market share in the country, the auto sector. Many cars are manufactured in the Eastern Cape. Whether it's Mercedes, whether it's Isuzu, you name them, Volkswagen and all that. And some of these companies have got their headquarters. That's why I was been talking to Mercedes, say, but why do you have your head office in Sandton? I know you are from Stuttgart. But it's good that others are really investing there, even their head office, into that space. So the auto sector has proved, actually where we are strategically located, we're strategically situated to really focus on that. It's unfortunate that we are also on the headlines today for another attempt. The bike, I'm hard in discussions with National Minister of DTI around that project and its challenges and how do we find a solution around it. We are also in serious discussion with another big European manufacturing company that intends coming into this site in the country, so to speak. So we expect a lot of that. So I know even Ford feels like they've sort of made a wrong decision to go to Silverton. They are a bit regretting now with all the challenges that we have now between here because they want to export their cars through Ngukha and they almost export more than 80% of what they manufacture here. So it's a huge business for us as a province. So we are looking at that and making things conducive for all of them to come into that space. Having said that, there is a sector of our economy that is not yet fully utilized, and that is the agricultural sector. Our province has a huge potential for agricultural expansion, as we are leading province in livestock population, and we have vast arable fertile land. UAE imports more than 90% of what it consumes, whether it's meat, fruit, and everything. So that on its own is a huge market space for us to really look at it and compete strongly. However, with all the vast potential, the province is currently second lowest contributor to South Africa's agricultural economy. This could change through increased focus on untapped potential in soybeans, maize, wool, beef, mohair, citrus, pigs, lucerne, sheep and goats. I read recently in a report of the Department of Agriculture and Land Affairs that the Eastern Cape gets around 20% of the total share of government spending, but the income and jobs are trailing behind at about 8 or 9%. This is the anomaly we want to change by creating more public-private initiative for massive primary production and agro-processing in our province. This is the same arrangement we need for tourism, but this time partnership should be community-centered because most of our prime tourism is community-owned. Mr. Damani, you'll be hosting a president of a country who just comes there for tourism for more than 20 days. I don't know what are the plans of that. He's going to his own space. He has bought a farm. He's going to stay there. Brings everyone, the family, everyone. That's why we're busy working on Bishop Airport. I don't know whether you've seen Bishop Airport now. It's something else that has almost changed because the president has requested to be landing into that. And so, I mean, there are a lot of opportunities. And you would want to make sure, and the president is not coming in South Africa for the first time, but the first experience is bad, where he went to. I don't want to say where he went to. But now they expect Eastern Cape to do much better than that. But I believe with the very short space of time we were interacting with this, some good work is being done. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to talk about all this. You're still going to hear a lot from our CEOs as they will actually be presenting here some concise and brief to the point areas of our potential as a province. I really, really appreciate that you are here and you are really keen to help us and push us to our limit. Our presence here at this 5th South African Investment Conference is a continuation of building bonds of economic prosperity. I know I've many invitations from the ambassadors. They all say, Eastern Cape, we are looking up to you. Russia, Germany. The last time I avoided going to Germany, I sent a delegation. I still have an issue. But there's a lot. When we were in the State of the Nation address on the eve, all the Asian countries came together, I think about 8 ambassadors, under one roof. We presented to them, and when we went to our State of the Province address, some joined us because of what we presented and spent more than 3 days around Mdantsane enjoying them, particularly the ambassador from Singapore. So you would want to have the vision we have Eastern Cape. If you read the history of Singapore, you can really do something like that in the Eastern Cape. It's possible. It just needs leadership and a vision. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Namkelekile. Thank you, Premier, for setting the tone. So we're ready for King on this front. I'm going to invite our investment promotion agency, ECDC. Upaki is going to share our value proposition. So just before you come, Paki, I know that I'm not going to mention names. We always reprimanded for telling and sharing our story and our offering. So the other eye you must use when you watch and listen to this is to critique, but also say, because sometimes we fall into the trap of inward looking and undertell our opportunity, but also these capabilities and the strengths that we have as a province. So Paki, do your part.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Premier of the Province of the Eastern Cape, His Excellencies that are present with us here physically and virtually, the DG of the Province of the Eastern Cape, our valued and prestige guests, the investors, industry stakeholders and our public sector partners, colleagues. Welcome. Thank you very much for being part of us, for being part of the story of the Eastern Cape. It is indeed very important to note that the Eastern Cape, when the Premier was talking about encouraging investors to explore the Eastern Cape for investment, that there is a value proposition that begins to tell a story that we're not only saying come and invest in the Eastern Cape, but we're also saying there is something on offer from the government as a commitment to show that the Eastern Cape is indeed open for your investment, to support your investment in terms of financial resources, human resources, infrastructure, and the political will of the Eastern Cape government to support you when you take that decision to invest in the Eastern Cape. So the province of the Eastern Cape is open for investment. It is open for trade as well. I think it is important to, at a glance, to say the province is not a small market. Also, the province of the Eastern Cape is not a small area in terms of land mass. If you look at the size of the Eastern Cape, 168,966 square meters in terms of land mass. That's massive. If you look at the GDP contribution as at the 2021-2022, of 19.57 billion. That indicates that we're talking about a massive province. But we do also want to say, in terms of infrastructure, we've got 3 ports: the port of Gqeberha in Gqeberha, port of Ngqura in Gqeberha, the port of East London in the Buffalo City Metro. These are the ports that are in place and are available to support your investment for all of the export-oriented investment into the Eastern Cape. So these are the ports that are used to take produce and the products of the Eastern Cape to the global market. And they are open for you and for your investment. So if you come to the Eastern Cape and want to invest in the Eastern Cape for the purpose of exporting to the global market, we've got those ports. We've got 2 metros, the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, we've got the Buffalo City Metro. And we've got 4 airports. The Premier mentioned an underutilized airport of Ubulembu in Bisho. It is a port that is suitable for freight as well as the tourism investments in the Eastern Cape. We're looking forward to get more investors to utilize the full potential of that port, to receive tourists with their big jets and aircraft, but also to ship and transport freight from the Eastern Cape to various destinations. We've got the Chief David Sterman Airport in Port Elizabeth in Gqeberha. We've got the King Paulo Airport in Buffalo City Metro, and we've got the Ibulembu. And in terms of educational institutions, we've got 4 universities of Forte, Rhodes, Nelson Mandela University, Walter Sisulu University. 6 districts with huge population, both as a market and also as a labor areas. The province itself, apart from its uniqueness as having 2 mixed economies, a well-developed economy with the state-of-the-art modern infrastructure in the Buffalo City area, around the Gqeberha area. But if you look into the royal hinterland of the eastern part and the northern part of the province, the Premier of the Eastern Cape indicated that the government has committed to put road network infrastructure, water infrastructure, in order to support your investment in the Eastern Cape. Apart from that, we've got incentive packages which the Eastern Cape Development Corporation as well as the special economic zones administer in order to lessen your burden of investing when you decide to invest in the Eastern Cape. So we've got all of those, starting from automotive production and development, export marketing, investment assistance that are provided by the DTIC. We've got foreign investment grant, agro-processing support scheme, global business service incentive that is offered by the DTIC, facilitated by our state entities. But the Eastern Cape has also put its own package to attract global business services because of identifying and seeing that more global giants are offshoring their services in the tourism, medical, financial sector, insurance, and the Eastern Cape is a suitable province to invest in facilities that are offshoring global services. With it, majority youth, population well spoken in English, they are ready to support that investment in the Eastern Cape. And the zones, they would also deliberate on the support provided by the special economic zones, have got their incentive packages that are available for you when you land in the Eastern Cape. Export opportunities. The Premier indicated that in component manufacturing for automotives, there are zones and they are demarcated for component suppliers in the Eastern Cape to support and supply original equipment manufacturers, OEMs. And there is plenty of opportunities to invest in more of that with the incentive schemes that we indicated before. Agro-processing, huge tracts of land are still available for you to invest in the production of primary produce. Infrastructure has been put in place. I've seen a number of investors here. Mr. Ali from Al-Mawashi, who has been exploring utilizing storage facilities for grain, lucerne, in order to bring in investment into the rural areas, to invest in the production of animal feed. In the past 3 years, we've seen an increase of export of chilled meat to the UAE, Middle East, and the global market from the Eastern Cape, and that is increasing and growing. And we're looking into utilizing that opportunity to bring in more small-scale farmers in the rural areas, and we are looking into partnering with you because the government cannot do it alone in putting the infrastructure and supporting small-scale farmers to produce more good quality. And I'm also pleased to say there are private sector companies that have come forward with their offering to put packages such as veterinary medical services that can be utilized by small-scale farmers to improve their quality of their livestock. Food and beverages, timber and timber products, wool and mohair. We are a mohair capital of the world. Recently, we received 5 Italian companies who are knocking at the Eastern Cape, looking into investing in the processing of mohair to stop the raw export of wool and mohair to the global market without being processed. Digital services are very important. Our youth are, excited about the prospects of seeing more investment into the digital economy. Mr. Ngaba is here. The partnership between government and the private sector in training and developing the skills of the young people in digital services, animation, coding, gaming is gaining momentum in the Eastern Cape because of the partnership of the like-minded people like Mr. Ngaba, his companies, and other partners and the private sector partners that are here. So that's very important because the Eastern Cape and the development of its economy needs to be underpinned by the strengthening of the digital services. The 2 zones, Kucha, SZ, and East London Industrial Development Zone, is home to a number of global companies. If you look at there, I'm not going to be reading all of that, but opportunities are galore. It's opportunity galore in automotive, maritime, energy, logistic, metal, mineral, ICT, business process outsourcing and manufacturing, renewable energy, infrastructure in the 2 zones. But we've got a 3rd zone that is intended to support investment into the mostly rural part of the eastern part and northern part of the province, which is called the Wales Coast Special Economic Zone. And it's got new opportunities for investors. So this is the zone that I'm talking about. If you look at the map of the Eastern Cape, its location spans from Gua, with all of its potential in grain production, livestock production, Musa Hill, with its potential for milk, soybean production, Port St. John's, which is a tourism paradise in the Eastern Cape, but also potential with fruit, fish and essential oils, Mhlonhlo Nyandeni, for hemp, livestock, forestry, KSD, various production of agricultural beverages. And I think, let me also hasten to say that within this new special economic zone, it's very important to say that it's already connected through railroad to the major economic centers. So it will be easy for your investment once landing onto these zones to connect and export your product into the domestic and the global markets. So these are the opportunities that have been identified through the business plans in the Wild Coast Special Economic Zones. It's mainly in agriculture, vegetable production. So automotive sector cannot be understated. It's very important, as more than 70% of component manufacturers that supply the automotive industry in the Eastern Cape, in South Africa, are located within this province of the Eastern Cape. Agricultural, the Premier indicated that there's huge potential in investing in agriculture and agribusiness, because this is the sector that employs more than 20,000 people in the Eastern Cape and contributes more than 24% of the manufacturing GDP in the Eastern Cape. For many products ranging from citrus, deciduous fruit, mohair, wool, macadamia nuts, and livestock. That's very important. The primary sector, although there is potential of huge arable land that have not been utilized, only contribute 22%, meaning there is a potential of investing in the production of the primary produce that is needed in the manufacturing sector of this agriculture. So we're looking into production of dairy products, animal feed, investing in grain storage facilities. Sustainable energy is very key. The Premier talked about the concern about our investors in their headquarters about energy security. Up to date, 16 large-scale wind farms and 1 solar farm have been established in the Eastern Cape. And in the pipeline, there are more that are being constructed. But I think what is important is that there has been a change in the global manufacturers of wind turbines to substitute the towers from steel to utilize concrete products, meaning the whole tower can now 100% be supplied by local production. So it provides more opportunities for us. And looking into the 10 years where the National Integrated Resource Plan is saying 15,762 megawatts of wind energy should come from the farms, 6,814 megawatts should come from solar, and 2,088 megawatts of storage capacity. So there's more that can be, which is a potential for investment. In these sectors, wind, we're looking into the production of structures, the inner works, the gearboxes of wind turbines as opportunities. In the map, we've even indicated the zones where such location are ready for you and for your investment. Looking at solar opportunities in the 2 zones of East London IDZ and Kucha to produce more components. Embedded generation is a trend now, and we're looking to, the Western Cape has set the tone, and I'm sure the Eastern Cape has got a potential there as well. Oceans economy, aquaculture farming, boat building, small harbour development, bunkering service are the potential in the oceans economy. I saw Professor Swartz here, and we're talking about the partnership to see the skills development in the Eastern Cape to develop a pool of young talents to support your investment in the oceans economy. Second, we are the second largest producer of aquaculture product and second largest exporter of fish and aquatic product, mainly oysters, abalone into the global market, second only to the Western Cape. Tourism sector, it's huge in the Eastern Cape. It's under explored, but with the number of productions of film, it started now to expose the Eastern Cape as a tourism destination, and we have seen more cruise ships coming in, and we're looking into getting more visitors. And I'm happy that there's a mention of Bulembu Airport as an airport that can be used to receive visitors into the Eastern Cape. The sector has got huge potential. The film industry investment has exposed this tourism potential and the beauty of the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape government agencies that are here, we've got contact details to facilitate your further elaboration into how you can be assisted to come into contact and put your investment into the Eastern Cape. And thank you very much here physically and virtually for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Paki. That's the value proposition. I'm not going to waste time now. I'm going to venture into the special economic zones and our auto industry development center. I will start by a Kucha special economic zone. Asanda Mkauka will represent Kucha. We do have CEO here, Mr. Kwezitia. I think he's delegating. Over to you, Asanda. Clip, please.
The world-class Kucha Special Economic Zone, or SEZ, is the right place for your business at the right time for strategic investment in the Eastern Cape and Africa, and the right choice to be on the cutting edge of future economic developments aligned to government policy, the Industrial Policy Action Plan and Special Economic Zone Act. Managed by the Kucha Development Corporation, the Kucha SEZ is situated in bustling Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, adjacent to the deep water port of Ngqucha, and only 15 minutes from the port of Gqeberha. Equipped to handle all commodities, bulk, general and container cargo, it's the only SEZ in South Africa with 3 well-equipped ports which form the gateway to global accessibility, trade and investment.
Thank you, Program Director. Let me take the opportunity to greet the Honorable Premier of the Eastern Cape Province. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. As introduced, my name is Asanda Kauga. I'm the Executive Manager for Business Development at the Kucha Development Corporation. HOD indeed, the CEO is here, but he could not trust himself to keep within the 5 minutes. Hence the delegation down. I will not repeat what has already been shared by the previous speaker, but also by the video. I think there's just a few things which we would like to send out to our investors, those that have already selected to invest within the Eastern Cape or the Kucha Special Economic Zone, and those that are still looking for locations. Is that one, at Kucha, we try to co-craft suitable solutions with the clients using the skill that has been developed within the 23 years of being in existence. We try to draw learnings from the 56 operational investors that we have drawn within the 23 years. We also partner with the investors in project development, understanding that the minute you make a contact with an investor, the investor decides to choose your location, but it can take anything 24 months up to 5 years for the project to be developed. And in that process, there's a lot of integration that needs to take place between government and non-government entities to ensure that the investor does become operational. So we partner throughout the project development phase. We also pride ourselves to be a special economic zone that is responsive. A Premier did speak of the current energy crisis which the whole country is experiencing. Now, Kucha, apart from being identified as an initial gas hub earmarked for the development of gas-fired power stations that will be producing about 3,000 megawatts, we are also then responding to the current energy and water crisis now, specifically for the Nelson Mandela Bay where we are located. On the energy side, how we are responding, we have recently approved a special economic zone energy strategy. Now, this is going to allow investors to install alternative energy technologies for their respective plants. 2, we are in the process of concluding partnership with another state-owned entity. Now, this is going to see 5 buildings installed with solar rooftops. We know this is not enough, but there's something else. We have further then negotiated with the municipality, being the Nelson Mandela Bay, for load curtailment. Premier, when he was addressing, he did mention how component manufacturers for the OEMs get interrupted. Now, we have since then negotiated with the Nelson Mandela Bay to ensure that we don't, that is the Special Economic Zone Pucha and the Nelson Mandela Bay Logistics Park does not get load shedding, but instead we get a load curtailment. Now, that assists because the operators, they will know that will be off for a 24-hour cycle. They can better plan their production. They can better plan if they need to have overtime or not. And the equipment as well is going to be preserved because it's not going to be a switching on and a switching off. Thirdly then, or rather number 4, what we are doing as well in trying to respond to the energy crisis, we are in the process of developing feasibility study wherein we are looking at developing a 100-megawatt solar plant, which is going to be owned, operated by Kucha Special Economic Zone. On the water side, because I mean, these are the things and concerns that the investors will have. How are you responding to the water crisis? How are you responding to the energy crisis? Recently, we have been approved 1.8 billion to respond to the water challenges within the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, and part of that 900 million, if I am not making a mistake, as Kucha, then we are going to develop a return effluent scheme. When I explain it to my head, I just say it's a wastewater treatment plant, which is going to then produce water that is suitable for industry use. So which means then we understand the challenges with water, and this is how we are responding. There's a drive to become greener globally. We have recently at Kucha established a sustainability unit, which is focusing on not only Kucha, the Special Economic Zone, in terms of seeing how best then do we become greener, how do we reduce, carbon emissions, but the unit then is also going to provide that same service to the investors base within the Special Economic Zone. The value-added services have already been shared, that on the SHEC side, environmental authorizations were able to assist with that. We are also currently positioning ourselves as a location suitable for green hydrogen and green ammonia production, currently developing a project through Hive, which the investment value is about 100 billion. And what they will be producing is about 90,000 tons of each of these products per annum. Now, as I move closer to my conclusion, in terms of what we have done, we understand the state of the economy. It has been tough. In the 21-22 financial year, we have managed to attract 13 new investors, investment value 557 million. In the 22-23 financial year, which is the year that we've completed now, 31st of March, we have attracted 9 new investors, and we have doubled in investment value, looking at about 1.2 billion rand. And this is all made possible because apart from attracting, but we are also able to retain the investors that we have attracted over the years. And those investors are able to then reinvest through expansions. Over 9,000 operational jobs have been created. As I've said, about 30% of what we are counting in investments that we have signed, but of those are expansions, meaning we also aim to retain current investors. So the message that we are sending out, HODs, I'm about to sit down, is Kucha indeed is the right place, right time, right choice. We are open to interact and to welcome investors into the Kucha Special Economic Zone. The English say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. At Kucha we say, you only have to see. So we welcome you. If you want to come have an access or tour, you can make contact with myself. We will interact. We will be able to also interact with the various departments or units that have been flagged in terms of what we are offering as a value proposition. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asanda. You tried. World-class SEZ in the Eastern Cape. Well done, Asanda. We now moving to the second SEZ, the East London IDZ SEZ. So East London IDZ is a brand name, but it is a special economic zone. Over to you, Chief Operations Officer, Tembela Zweni. You can play the clip.
The East London Industrial Development Zone is a purpose-built and world-class industrial complex. The zone consists of innovative, globally competitive manufacturers, creating an optimized business environment that fosters growth and prosperity for investors. It offers an ideal location, modern infrastructure, and competitive incentives. This dynamic industrial complex provides businesses with the essential support they need.
Honorable Premier, Excellencies from various countries, DG, important critical captains of industry and stakeholders who I believe are the lifeblood of what we are trying to do. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to be long because I think what I was going to say has already been covered. You've seen our value proposition. For me, it's just to lift out things that have not been mentioned there. The video doesn't tell us that we are involved in what we called green building concept, where we are trying to make sure that our buildings do comply with the just energy transition. We've started doing that. We are supposed to get the certification, but the problem we've been having with the Green Building Association of South Africa was that they got that application for the first time from an industrial development zone. So they had to go, find out how they can do this, even investigating, researching in their, from their Australian counterparts. So we are busy with that. The other initiative that we are busy in trying to make sure that, we comply with the demands of the industry. There's a concept we called Eco-Industrial Park, where we were assessed by UNIDO from a scale of 1 to 100. And then we scored 82 out of that. They were looking at how we are managing the environment, our performance, how we, socially, are we a socially responsible company, and so on and so forth. So what they've done then, they've lifted up the things that we need to do to close that gap, that 18% that we didn't get. So we're busy with that. We have just now finished the draft energy plan of the East London IDZ, working with the CSIR to make sure that we the challenges that we have, obviously, these are national, global challenges, but in our own smallest way, we're trying to make sure that when the situation allows, then we will be able to make sure that the issues of the load shedding, energy shortage, the mix of energy within the East London IDZ is used optimally. But I would also want to say that the take home from what you saw there is that we partner with the investors, when they come, until as long as they are within our platform. We sit down with their engineers, we design their buildings, and we have a very robust aftercare to make sure that we keep on delighting them. I see HOD is, yeah. I think in that note, I think that's who we are as East London IDZ. We are solutions oriented. If you want to talk to us, we are here to make sure that we delight you, we meet your expectations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tembela. Another world-class SEZ in the Eastern Cape on the East London side. I think I know why Ukwezi delegated to Asanda. I'll tell you at the end. Now I know it was actually not about time. He was strategic. Tabo, can you please help us with a clip for Auto Industry Development Center? So you heard the statistics. We are the hub of automotives in the country. So Tabo is going to tell us a bit about AIDC, how we are enabling the auto sector.
The Eastern Cape province of South Africa is synonymous with automobiles. With a highly skilled workforce, cutting-edge research and development facilities, top-notch institutions of higher education, and a dense automotive supply chain, the Eastern Cape is Africa's automotive center. The Eastern Cape is the largest exporter of vehicles in South Africa and its largest production hub. 6 original equipment manufacturers and numerous multinationals have headquarters or plants in the Eastern Cape. 3 ports, including a deep water port, ensure logistical efficiency for the automotive sector. 2 special economic zones offer world-class infrastructure, tax incentives, rebates and a duty-free zone, purpose-built for manufacturing of export goods. The region's automotive sector employs more than 30,000 people, including engineers and advanced manufacturing experts. The Eastern Cape invites partnerships. Contact us for support around incentives and information for investment, or for advice concerning potential partnerships or agreements with any industry role player, including part manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, e-mobility, and part distribution or procurement. The Automotive Industry Development Center, your partner in becoming globally competitive.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Premier. Good evening, Excellencies, CEOs and board chairpersons and stakeholders. It is true, we are not going to undersell ourselves, Premier. We are the capital of Africa in terms of auto sector. We've got 100 years of automotive engineering in our province. We boast high quality component suppliers who've won global awards in manufacturing cars. We export cars to the rest of the world. And this sector employs just over 60,000 people in our province. And that's just OEMs and suppliers only. We still are computing the numbers when it comes to the retail space, when it comes to the banking space. So we are a major player, Premier. We always make an analogy of a three-legged boat to no pochi. We've got 3 provinces that manufacture cars in our province. We've got the biggest market share. Therefore, we cannot survive without the others. We've got our suppliers that are supplying globally. We've got our suppliers that are supplying from our province to the other OEMs. So the spirit of cooperation has got to reign all the time. We do this work mainly to retain investors, Premier, as a start. Our business case as a country is battling at the moment just to attract investors. So we have opted to work with institutions like NAMSA, and Mike is here from NAMSA, one of our strongest stakeholders on the lobby side. And that's just general advice on how we should approach things. So NAMSA is a council of OEMs. So he reports to 39 bosses, Mike, both exporting and importing of vehicles. What also preoccupies us more, Premier, are policy issues. These are critical. Investors need certainty. We've stepped into that space on behalf of our province. We work very closely with the DTIC and NAMSA, and specifically to try and speed up the process of confirming the incentive regime and the policy regime to manufacture new electric vehicles. So we're big on policy issues. We're confronted with energy issues, both on the load shedding side, but also on the supply of sustainable energy. And the big talking point at the moment is a transition towards EVs, Premier. What does that look like in the Eastern Cape? I can tell you now, if you're driving a C-Class, it's probably imported, because 95% of the cars that C-Classes that we manufacture in Eastern Cape go to Europe. So which makes Europe our critical market. So if Europe decides they're gonna drive EVs from 2035, we need to quickly translate that into what it means for the Eastern Cape. Otherwise, we lose the market. We've been bold enough, thanks to the Premier, the DG. There's some major announcements that were made at SOPA this year. The charging stations which we are going to be putting up in the province, which really are meant to encourage the consumption of EVs and just enable people to drive EVs in the Eastern Cape. We're also investing in the EV skills for our young people so that we don't leave them outside during the transition. So with all that has been said, this province is open for business in the auto space as it is demonstrated by the video and the collective wisdom that we have been able to gather over the past 100 years. So I work for the AIDC. I'm the chief slave there. We've been set up by the province to assist the OEMs, the component suppliers, on a range of issues they might be battling with, and also on the other side to advise our province on the best approach to take to retain and attract new investors. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Thabo. You saved us time as well. So as we are going to now this is what I wanted to say. Let me finish, because indeed, Premier, akakho mnyumamo zabakhona. So here's the thing. We have a boys' club. So the only reason that Ukwezi delegated to Asanda, he knew that if it was not for Asanda, I would be the only woman in this podium. So Premier picked that up, so I couldn't wait for later. Now, boke babone Premier. So as I'm about to call Ubaphelele from our, to share our proposition on the economic infrastructure, I just want to share briefly that we have a provincial economic development strategy. We've got priority sectors. However, we have emerging sectors and we are ready for investors. Ulibele Manyano Premier, he forgot His Excellencies and everybody, cannabis. His name after Umzimvubu is cannabis. So this is, that's one of the sectors where we are ready for investment. We also have the oceans economy, and we have Professor Swart from the Nelson Mandela University in Gqeberha, our critical partner, to unpack but also receive, help us receive investors in this sector. We've also been positioning ourselves, and government has invested for economic infrastructure as an oil and gas hub. You heard Asanda when she was presenting. So that's another big area for investment. And the last one being, so we've got small pockets between the two SEZ in the pharmaceutical industry. So we're also looking forward to have investors in those. So I'm calling Ubaphelele to take us through the economic infrastructure value proposition. 10 minutes max.
Thank you, HOD. Mhlawumbi ndizawuthatha imizuzu emihlanu nyani. Particularly because anayi nentonga. Ndibona wonke umuntu ozapha enentonga. So in the absence of a promotional video, I'm going to really run rather fast. My name is Baphelele Mhlaba. I'm the head of what Premier termed in his 2019 State of the Province Address, the Kauleza PMO, which is really an infrastructure investment PMO, and it's almost a special purpose portfolio management office, which was established to just make sure that things in the Eastern Cape do not fall through the cracks. And the assessment that the Premier had done was that we make project pronouncements, we do sort turnings, we talk about projects, and year on year, the script is almost the same, and what gets into traction is really a small margin of what we pronounce. So we've been in that space of making sure that we support all of our development entities, particularly with ensuring that we beef up the economic infrastructure of the Eastern Cape province. So whether you talk rail, whether you talk our roads, whether you talk our ports, whether you talk our airports, and whether indeed you talk about our energy infrastructure capability, our value proposition is to make sure that we support every individual project owner, whether in the public sector or whether they're in the private sector, to make sure that projects that we speak about actually become realized. So I think maybe the thing to say, Premier, as we recognize you, the DG in the room, His Excellencies that have joined us, I see a number of state-owned entities that we work with, Premier. I see from Petro SA to Transnet to Sasol. I'm probably just missing Eskom. I haven't seen Eskom. Aibo. It can't be funny that we can't see Eskom. We must always see Eskom. Because when we see Eskom, we at least know that we share everything that we have with them. But I think most importantly, Premier, what is important about the mix of the room is that most of the people that we hold hands with are actually here in the room. We are located right in the southern tip of Africa, and I think my colleagues have done quite a bit to make sure that they showcase what we have in terms of our ports capability. And maybe Ukwezi will talk at length about what we're positioning as the transshipment hub in terms of Kucha, because it brings with it the kind of capabilities that we're building in terms of infrastructure going to that side. We've got a deep sea water port that is presenting amazing things for us, because at this point in time, Premier, when we talk about the South Core, and my colleagues from Transnet are here, they know that we're holding hands to make sure that we find the 6 billion that needs to be injected on the South Core, Premier. And in a nutshell, what it will do, it will open up the high capacity rail corridor between the Eastern Cape and Gauteng, in particular Silverton up to Silverton, to make sure that we improve the containers that go up from our ports, and also the volumes of export, not just from Ford, but equally from BMW, that goes towards that side of the province, which is the west side of the province. That is 6 billion. Next to that 6 billion, behind you, Premier, we've had many people that you've referred us to, that have been referred to us. We're building something similar to what is Mazda City, which is what you saw last week. And one of the project owners is here today. They came to us and they said they need 7.8 billion to unlock 60 billion in building Kucha Ridge. And we are engaging with them, and this is one of the things that are not gonna fall through the cracks. Ulunga, I saw him here. Asanda spoke to that project of the Hive Energy project, which is really intended to place us in the global map in terms of green ammonia production. What Asanda just didn't mention was that part of what that project is going to do for us is to unlock the grid network that connects the Eastern Cape to the Northern Cape and up to the areas that have got better grid through a 10 billion injection that has been costed in to support ESCOM to improve the power lines and the grid in order to make sure that we open up the space that is clogging 6 billion of wind energy projects that are still going to be pronounced in the future renewable energy procurement program. If you go to the central part, we've got 3 corridors. I was just quickly outlining from just an economic infrastructure perspective, the western side. I'm not forgetting that part of our major human settlements projects need about $1 billion in Nelson Mandela Bay, and we are in discussions with the state entities that are responsible for bulk, in particular the Department of Water and Sanitation, to unlock that. So when you spoke, Premier, about Mercedes-Benz, I was glad because the leadership of BCMDA is here. And they have a project which is close to $1 billion, which is supposed to be developed in Berlin, Dabozuk. And our role there is to make sure that that project happens. We attract the necessary funding that's gonna go to it, and it happens. When it happens, it will open up capability for another 5 billion injection for lithium batteries, which are going to, in essence, be targeting residential, commercial, as well as electric vehicles. And I'm not gonna repeat what Mr. Shangane talked to about our positioning as the Eastern Cape in as far as the transition to EVs. But what that project in essence does is that it connects us as the Eastern Cape with Botswana for nickel. It connects us with Zambia and Zimbabwe for lithium and copper. It connects us with Mozambique for graphite. It connects us with the Northern Cape for manganese. The different commodities I'm talking about are in essence what is actually required in the electric battery itself. So when we live here, we will go to Cape Town and engage with Ambassador Wamkele Mene and the leadership of the African Continental Free Trade Zone. And in essence, what we're doing is that we're positioning the Eastern Cape to be at the center of the African agenda, in particular, the Southern African agenda. And to make sure that we reduce the carbon footprint by ensuring that these minerals get beneficiated in the countries where they are found. And what we get through rail and through our ports is only the formula that we need to put together the electric batteries. And that, in essence, will support our position as the African capital of the automotive sector. And maybe without taking a lot of time, when we were at the Eastern Cape Provincial Investment Conference last year, we spoke about 190 billion plus funding gap in terms of the projects that we have. It's about 44 projects that we have in our pipeline, all different sectors of priority sectors of our province, from agriculture to energy to tourism to industry development. And I think Umeki spoke a bit about cannabis. But if you look at the east of the province, those two tourism products, I call them tourism products, other people call them bridges, which is Mtendu and Msigaba. When they are finished, I don't want to take Mr. Daimani's thunder about what we can achieve in Pondoland and what we can achieve in the Wild Coast, just in terms of tourism and how they open up the most impoverished area of our province in terms of the Wild Coast. And I think there's been a lot that has been written nationally about the Eastern Seaboard, and Premier was quite emphatic that part of the lessons learned from the UAE can be achieved in the Eastern Seaboard, and we're going to talk at length about that. So when we realized the Wild Coast SEZ in Mthatha, and I'm just reminded that about 12 years ago, we were in China, in Shanghai, presenting the Mthatha airport, and we called it a 20 billion potential then. And it still remains a potential, and it will anchor the Wild Coast SEZ, supported by the 2.1 billion Mthatha Junction project. So there's quite a lot that we're looking at, and our plea to the room today is that if you do have a project, and if you do have an interest in terms of investing in the Eastern Cape, we are here to listen, we will partner with you, and we're not promising that we will give the billions, but what we're promising is that in the same manner in which we've been working with Hive, we will make sure that the requirements are costed in the project, and that the project will find expression, it will be realized. And that's who we are in the Eastern Cape, and that's the offer that we are making. We're not coming with deep pockets, but we have the will, the drive, and the willingness to make sure that these projects that we talk about actually come to fruition. Thank you, Mickey.
Thank you, Babs. Any venture capitalist in the room? We have a World Bank group represented by World. We met last week with International Finance Corporation. So I'm just finishing off where Babs left, that we also, as we are still limited in investing financially, we are looking for funding, private sector, DFIs, you name it. So I'm looking around, I don't see any hands, but I'm sure after this we'll have people coming forth. So we are really looking, so because this is a critical enabler for all the value proposition we have been tabling here. We have a ambassador, His Excellency from Russia. We have His Excellency from Belarus and his deputy. And I'm sure online, I've been asking the team to share which ambassadors we have online. So you are welcome. Now we are going to move towards the end, only two, I promise you, and I'm going to stand, and then you know your time is up. The CEO from ECTC is going to share what feedback have we been receiving from embassies, various embassies, and how are we repositioning ourselves. And we'll conclude our program by two testimonies. We've got two investors in the house. There were great testimonies from East London IDZ. Over to you, Wakes.
Thank you very much, Sis Mickey. The program director has already indicated that I'm from the host organization, the Eastern Cape Development Corporation. I've got 4 slides to share with you, but I'll get to that a little later. I think I first want to give a context of my address. I think I want to start by indicating that we honored Premier to be your host today, but also to be the host of your guests. We have a number of excellencies who have joined us today. I just want to give a sense of who was invited and who's joining. We have the ambassador from Belgium, DRC, Russia, Netherlands, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Ghana, Egypt, Tunisia, Belgium, Kuwait, Italy, Mozambique, Argentina, USA, Brazil, Egypt, Sao Paulo, and the Philippines. Of those, we have about 13 who have joined us, and we are honored to have them in our midst. Some, or rather the most, are joining us virtually, some are here, and part of my address relates to the work that we will be doing with them. Hence, I am starting there. Maybe a short indication of what the Eastern Cape Economic Development Corporation is about. We are an economic development agency of the Eastern Cape. We have a three-legged mandate. We are a DFI, Development Finance Institution. We are an economic development agency, and we are also a trade and investment promotion agency of the province. Today, you could say we're wearing the two caps, the Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, and we're also wearing the Economic Development Agency role. Our role is to get the Eastern Cape economy to work. The Premier, in his earlier address, made observations that we've got economic structural challenges. Some are good challenges, such as the over-reliance on the automotive sector, which we are happy to have, which we're working to gear it to do more in that space. But I think we are also keen to diversify the economy of the province. We have got large potential, as indicated in some of the presentations, in agriculture and agro-processing, in the oceans economy, in tourism. We've got great potential that still needs to be explored. Our work as the Provincial Economic Development Agency is to translate these from mere opportunities into on-the-ground economic activities that are taken up by investors, that result in jobs creation on the ground, in businesses established, and in the lives of the people of the Eastern Cape changed for the better. In doing this work, we are at the center. We invest time to get the system to engage, to get the private sector, the public sector, to get the foreign missions, which up until now, you could argue has been an asset that we didn't adequately exploit. We now, I think moving forward, are putting arrangements to better work with our foreign missions as well as local embassies in order to get a better dividend for this province. So the 4 slides are a teaser, an initiation of an engagement with the excellencies that are joining us, with a view to say, this is the manner in which we're contemplating working with yourselves. We thought it best to do it here because you are stakeholders in those relationships. If we do trade missions, if we do any work abroad with the business communities, we would be opening doors for yourselves in various industries. So with that said, can I have the... Okay. With that said, I want to take you to these few slides. Nothing, heavy, a light engagement. I think I've already indicated the purpose of our engagement: to explore inter-country trade and investment opportunities, and to provide a platform to address inter-country trade and investment barriers. I think the work that we wish to do with these missions is outlined there in that purpose. The approach we're suggesting are scheduled virtual foreign mission and local embassies that are focused on trade and investment promotion, and that we do workshops, we do engagements, that themselves should direct us in terms of the opportunities that we would pursue. We believe that out of those engagements, there should be business-to-business engagements that arise. And out of those, there ought to be commodity-based inbound and outbound trade missions that will culminate from those engagements, including bilaterals with some of the countries that we would be engaging with. Some of this work is already at play. We already, as the Eastern Cape Province, have bilaterals with a number of countries. This work would seek to optimize the value generation from those existing bilaterals. We believe that we could do this through, say, biannual engagements with the foreign missions combined with the local embassies, where we refresh our engagement, presenting the value proposition for the Eastern Cape, reminding them about what is it that we offer as a province. We also believe that the business-to-business engagements would be opportunity-driven, and so would be the inbound and outbound trade missions. The typical participants would be the high commissioners, ambassadors, and consul generals, and the economic cluster departments, the business chambers. I've seen some of the captains of our Eastern Cape business chambers in the room, existing and potential investors who may have identified opportunities in some of these countries who would benefit from the platforms created to enable engagement. DERCO, DTIC, as well as the regional trading blocks. We already have engagements with regional trading blocks, with the EU, with the American trading blocks, and already we've got activities taking place between the Eastern Cape business community and those blocks. Lastly, we see these engagements from a content point of view, dealing with sector and industry investment opportunities, trade protocols. I think it's an important aspect. There is a need to lay bare what are these requirements that are in place for engaging with trade with specific countries, and we think that through this platform we could help to put that information in the hands of the Eastern Cape business community. Also, trade barriers, trade and investment barriers. My colleague, Mr. Mhlaba, spoke earlier here about some of the arrangements we've put in the Eastern Cape in order to address investment barriers and ensure that what we've identified as an investment lead, we're able to convert into an actual investment. I thought that we should lift those, and as we do so, maybe invite some few comments from the excellencies who either are here in the room, as well as from the excellencies who may have joined us virtually. We have already come across a number of requests from them asking us to create a platform where we can engage on trade and investment promotion. Thank you, Mika. I see you already standing.
Thank you, Wakes, for that. Good start. We just need to sustain. So now we're going to have two investors. You're going to help me translate to your neighbor if I can differ. So we have two that are going to testify. So I'm going to start with Adesh Naidu. I didn't see where. Please come over. So Adesh is our first investor from the Sana Property Development Group. Over to you.
Hi, I'm Adesh Naidu from a property development company and an asset management company. So we have partnered with one of the bigger retailers in South Africa that targets rural and township development, which is Boxer. We are building these sites throughout Eastern Cape. There's actually 80 sites that they want to roll out in the next couple of years. So phase one of the development, I've set aside 540 million rand for these developments. And as the years go by, we want to try and reach this target of 80. Boxer's got their own hardware brand. So they want to roll out 39 Boxer builds throughout Eastern Cape. We're doing really well, Premier, and I want to honor your team, especially Mr. Jakarana, Mr. Mhlaba, and Makwan. I forget his name. Yeah. So yeah, they've been working beyond their time and beyond their scope to help us and make sure we get these sites. So I'm very grateful for that, and hopefully we can start breaking ground really soon. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Premier, honorable guests. I'm Lungalimba from Hive Hydrogen. Hive Hydrogen is a combination of two companies, Hive Energy from UK and Build Africa from South Africa. We're developing this green ammonia project at Kucha IDZ. We are very blessed to have a very proactive SOE like Kucha. We get a lot of support. When this project was started, it was supposed to be in Kuchubai, in Saldanha Bay, and Kucha has been proactive because this is new. They've been traveling with us. They go to Spain, Alicante, we go with them to Loina to show them what we're doing in other countries. So I want to challenge East London IDZ. This is your opportunity because we just came from Japan, Kucha was there, we don't see you, and this is an opportunity that needs to be taken. So I just want, this is so important because we were next to the sea. We are so blessed because this project, you manufacture ammonia from the sea. So this is very important for us to take this opportunity. There are so many investors. I mean, just our phase one is 100 billion rands. There's 20,000 jobs that are on the cards. So we really have to talk to East London ITZ to see how we can assist, because I want to see this project being expanded to East London. But secondly, what is important also, I want to challenge Petro SA, because you've got a 15 megaliter desalination plant, you've got a demineralization plant, you've got air separation unit. In Kucha will start in 2027, but in Petro SA, from the lessons that we've learned, we can start next year based on the critical infrastructure that exists already with the current challenges of your gas depletions. So I think we have to really see what we can do. Also, I want to challenge Premier. Last year at the Hydrogen Conference, the Premier of Western Cape and Northern Cape, they formed partnerships. You've got, now this project, phase one is 100 billion and other phases 300 billion in your province. I want to see you in those partnerships in those provinces that are being formed by those premiers, because this is the real project that is going to start. The Kuchubai project is going to take 10 years to start. The harbour that is going to be built by Transnet, I don't know how long it's going to take, but your province is blessed with this project. So I want to say, let's grab this opportunity. We've got international private investment coming to our province. Let's take this. I want to thank you.
Thank you, Lunga. Thank you, Adesh. So I think, Babs, you and Premier in the Western Cape, you must stay a day longer. So you have overtaken us. We were planning a trip for this, but nihlale a day extra and bring back that tripartite. Northern Cape, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, delegation from below. So a day extra, Premier. Thank you, everyone. So this is our value proposition, and we ended up by these confirmation testimonies. But also, if you were watching the East London ITZ clip, we had quite a few. This item is not on the program, but I think it would be incomplete, the program, if I don't allow few minutes still from the networking dinner time, and just check feedback from my audience here. I know that we definitely getting feedback from His Excellency Omar Katuka. Can I check other hands? Hayi ke ngo. Prof, so we'll start with His Excellency, and then we've got Professor Swartz here, and those are the two for now.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Premier, Honorable Premier, the Director General, Mr. Mbulelo Sogoni, whom I have worked with, Premier, for more than 4 years when we were in the board of the ECRDA. I was in the ECDC for 5 years and 4 years at the ECRDA. So I'm well acquainted with the FDI sector in your province, Premier. But I wear a different cap now. My name is Gumzuvugile Umakwetuga. I'm from Grafrinet. I'm a Karoo boy, Mr. Premier. Dihlala at Jeffreys Bay now. But for the past, I'm on my 3rd year now as South Africa ambassador in Moscow. I'm also responsible for Belarus. Those are the areas that we are responsible for. I'm quite acquainted, Honorable Premier, with the developments in the sense that I'm working, the mission in Moscow is working very close with the Nelson Mandela University, especially the oceans economy, the ocean science economy. And I'm working very close with Professor Swart, who is an old buddy of mine that I've known since the 70s. So we're still together. No, I'm not going to touch it. It will embarrass him, Mr. Premier. But in short, as an embassy, Premier, we had already strategic engagements with the ECRDA, Miss Untutu Mbiko, who is representing this thing, board. And then I was also together with Miss Majola, who's representing Dr. Da. Now, specifically, we had introduced them on an offering that Ambassador Siduruk from Belarus are interested in. My passion has always been the Magwati estate in particular. And there is a huge potential for an offtake with bulk tea. So that is what we have been discussing over the past, since yesterday. And I'm sure you will be briefed further on that one. And there are other opportunities, Premier, in relation to the mission in Moscow is ready to work with the Eastern Cape province in the field of citrus, colleagues. Premier, citrus has got a special value in the Russian Federation in that there are 2 reasons why the Russians are passionate about citrus. One is for health reason, but number 2, they eat it as fruit. Yes, and it's a simple logic. We've got 35, South Africa has got a 35% market share in the whole of the Russian Federation. We are number 3. Number 1 is Turkey, which is just 2.5 hours flight from Moscow. Number 2 is Egypt. Number 3 is South Africa. But in winter, we don't have competition as South Africa. Each and every orange that you will find in a retail shop in Russia, chances are that 9 of those oranges come from South Africa. Now, Now, what is important, Premier? The Eastern Cape, within the CGA sector, Citrus Growers Association of Southern Africa, the Eastern Cape is the second biggest exporter of citrus. We have a project to develop because we still have, Russia Premier has got 11 time zones. So that's why we don't talk of Russian time. There's nothing like Russian time. It depends where you are located, because from St. Petersburg to Vladivostok, it's a 9.5 hours flight. That's how big the country is. It has got 85 regions equal to our provinces. 85, Premier. So the market is huge, but we will discuss all those issues. But we are here, I am here to assist, amongst other provinces, the Eastern Cape, in the marketing of the province, in the Russian Federation and in Belarus. Thank you very much, Premier.
Thank you, His Excellency.
Good evening, Premier and colleagues. My name is Derek Swartz, and from the Eastern Cape, and passionately Eastern Cape, and from the university sector. I just wanted to raise two things that I know, Premier, you know, that are critical to any process of beneficiation, horizontally and vertically, of any sector in the economy that we want to do greater FDI, greater trade promotion. When we want to do beneficiation of the economy, and that is innovation, is key to that. If you want to extract maximum benefits from the new economic sectors like hydrogen, renewable energy, food security, agri-tech, and so on, we have to place the issue of skills development and R&D, innovation in particular, the knowledge economy right at the heart of our investment negotiations. So right at the beginning, not an afterthought. And we need to figure out internally in the province how to organize our existing capabilities. We had 4 universities, as some of my colleagues were saying, quite a number of TVET colleges, number of specialized schools, agricultural schools, and so on. We need to organize them into a tight network. They function too much as individual silos. Everyone wants to be a king on this thing. Organize them together, raise the floor of the production of skills in specific areas. Say, Forte, you focus on this. WSU, I've been speaking to the VC regularly, you focus on this. Rhodes and NMU together with the TVETs in concert. And we lift the scale of high-level skills that we need in the technological economy that we need. And we also make sure that we pool together all the R&D funds nationally. I work in the national level now, and I'm really keen to make sure that we bring those funds into the Eastern Cape around these strategic economic projects that we spoke about. Premier spoke about that. The different IDZs spoke about it as well. So for me, it's crucial, Premier, we must build that right at the beginning of the process. Papalele spoke earlier on about EVs and the development of lithium technologies. I'm working with him and the team on that, and I know for sure we have to restructure the way the universities train our engineering students from combustion engine technologies and chemical batteries to the new technologies. So we need to change the curriculum, for example. We need to put in more R&D centers. We need to create new capabilities in the universities to promote this as well. So my only appeal to you, Premier, is that when we have conversations about trade promotion, investment, and so on, right at the beginning, we build an innovation platform into that, and we work it backwards to the institutions, and you can count on my support with that. Nkosi, thanks.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you for that. So this brings to the end my part, as I'm going to invite our DJ, Mr. Sokoni, to share closing remarks for us. Premier Gay, Chairperson Law, no wakes. What they didn't tell you is that Bodea is guilty, but changing the program to have a woman. So if Namben Avumangu, Asanding Avumanga, like. No. We leave it at that point. Thank you for being a great audience, a lot to take with. But if you remember when I started, I said, please continue giving us constructive feedback, keep us on our toes. We commit as the Eastern Cape government to do our part in enabling economic growth, inclusive economic growth, enable you to create jobs, but to journey with us. So this is our value proposition. Thank you. Over to you, Dij.
Well done.
Thank you.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Hi, Galok. Good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Mbulelo Sokoni. I work in that office where you get told in the morning, during lunchtime, in the evening that you will be fired. That's the office I'm working in. And Lunga, you have just rubbed salt in the wound. Because this partnership, Northern Cape, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, I was instructed to work on it, and I've not delivered on it. Ngoku uzothi wena Lunga apha kule ntlanganiso. Unika abantu ngoku umhlaba woba badilishane nam. I really would like to, in appreciation, commend the the ECDC team board chair for the good work done in this display of today. And I'm saying this because I would actually ask you to fire those colleagues at ECDC who organized the one of last year and actually promote and offer bonuses to the ones who organized this one of this year. A round of applause to them, colleagues. This has been a huge improvement indeed compared to, we learn one step at a time. And I really would wish to applaud colleagues who put this together. Program Director, you were good. As always, Madlamin. The fact that I may not be a woman, kodwa ke ndinimele nonke apha. Well done, Madlamini. You really steered the ship well. It should be enough then. It should be enough for me to say thank you to everyone and not go to each one of us. But colleagues, I just want to share this, that Premier, it is good to be led by you. It is good to be led by you. I'm not joking when I say we are used to some leaders who would come, offer the opening address, and leave. And they miss out on all of the things that you have listened to hear this afternoon and this evening. Enkosi kakhulu dear for being the premier you are. Ibale ningalaziyo ke nina leloba sometime in December 2022 there was some big meeting at Nasrec south of Johannesburg, and hey saxakwa ngabantu kule meeting bafuna ukonyula umuntu wase Eastern Cape as deputy president. Abanye bethu are praying uba isucceed lento. Abanye bethu are praying uba ingalungi lento. Hayi ke yanqoba le mithandazo yoba ingalungi lento. Simply because, dear, you would be this leader you are anywhere and everywhere. But at this point in time, we need to lift the Eastern Cape up. The Eastern Cape has to feature and show on the national and international map. Uyabona ngoku besilungisa buphuthu itrip yakho to the UAE. I was like, okay, I don't know how many leaders who are not you would have within 2 days just taken the decision. Do you know what? I have this invitation from the president of the UAE. I'm going there. And within 2 days, he makes all arrangements and goes there. Yashiyeka nathi uba siyocacisa kumagatyeni uba le ndoda evele ithi vumbu kangaka seyingxamile siye UAE kutheni na. Sayicacisa ke wakholelwa diya umagatyeni ndikunika feedback ke. Lento busithume yona ke diya yoba sipreparishele nomhlaba lo le visit ka president. It looks like we are succeeding because we have just received now as we are sitting here the approvals from national government of the permits that would then facilitate that the president lands at Bulembu Airport. Who would have thought about that, dear? With Bulembu Airport in the manner in which it is. All of this, I'm just saying, dear, enkosi wethu ngoba ubelapha nathi, enkosi ngesikhokhelo sakho. Colleagues, I would also wish to highlight that when we were working in the previous year as the ecosystem of the province on attracting investments to our province, we then staged the investment conference that was in November, I think. And we told ourselves that we were going to, for the 2023 chapter, we were going to make sure that we start our preparations early so that our guests and potential investors can know in good time when is our appointment. Today we are here because the president has arranged his. But later in the year, we are in our province because the premier would have arranged his. And already, Premier, from your diary, we have released the dates of the 28th and the 29th of September as dates for the Provincial Investment Conference of the Eastern Cape. And we expect to see more of these heads here and many of those who may not have made it to this session. In May, in the province of the Eastern Cape, on the 9th to the 12th of May, we are hosting preparations for the BRICS summit. You would have heard the president mentioning that the BRICS summit this year will be held in our country. There are preparations that are currently underway, and there is a particular BRICS working group, the employment working group, that will be meeting. By this I mean delegates from Russia, from Brazil, from China, from India, from South Africa. They'll be meeting in our own city of Port Alfred in Dlambe local municipality to prepare for the summit, which will be held later in the year in our country. And again, colleagues, we have had to dig deeper into our pockets, make it possible that all of these things happen in our own province. The ECPTA, Office of the Premier, you name them, colleagues are here. They are working on ensuring that when those Russians land in our province, when those Indians, when those Chinese, Brazilians, and so on, they would wish they come back because of the experience that they would have encountered in the province of the Eastern Cape. Cabinet has approved what we call the Premier's Investment Council. And the purpose of this council is to bring together government and the private sector in the main, but together with other social partners, to discuss how do we make it easy for business to invest and do business in the Eastern Cape. As Utabo was saying here, so that we don't only worry about attracting new investments, but we also work to service existing investors so that they can be our word, even where we can't reach, about their experience in the Eastern Cape. Colleagues, I said last year, and I'm going to say it now again, there are a number of things in our province that we need to fix if we are to be serious about making business feel comfortable in our province. For as long as every step of the way sislitas, and as sislitas and as ukutheni uxakeke kangaka nguambassador ndikhona. Intoni sislitas le ikuxakekise kangaka ngoambassador ndikhona. I'm saying the moment every 10 in our streets you find litter that is not collected is a problem. The moment you find potholes everywhere is a problem. The moment you find water leakage, leaks everywhere is a problem. Ungekayi ke load shedding. Now I'm saying there are certain things that we understand that as government we have to fix. And we are committing ourselves that progressively we will work on actually fixing those things. As I move towards conclusion, we really appreciate the inputs that have been made, and thank you very much to my leaders and my colleagues. Upaki, Asanda, Utembela, Utabo, Bapelele, nawe Xesibe, CEO wase ECTC. Not least at all, we appreciate Lunga. There is one colleague I couldn't pick up who was here before Lunga, Atesh. The Ambassador Maqetuka, okay, sendibona ke Premier no Makhatebe, Ambassador Xhasa. Now, andikwazi ke wena Makhatebe kodwa Ambassador Maqetuka, the one thing I know, indoba I'm not going to be the only one who's going to be fired. Yeah, now what he did this afternoon there was a meeting yeboss yakhe IDC. And wajonga amathuba wabona uba angazimela aze kuleka premier. Simple because of the passion ube demonstrator apha about the Eastern Cape. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Whether ugxothiwe noba ugxothiwanga sawuyibona mva leyo. Enkosi kakhulu Makhadebe. Thank you very much to the ambassadors and all other leaders who are connected on the virtual platform. Uxolo. Sister, uxolo. Upuput smart. Kin. Uxolo xhomela. Ndixolisa kakhulu. Ndibone uMakhatebe ngokangenayo andiniqwalaselanga nene. Siyana acknowledge as inkokheli zethu. Siyana acknowledge. Thank you very much for coming to join this Premier's party as CEO up. And you are fully aware that there are many of those who are on the virtual platforms. Thank you very much to them as well. Ladies and gentlemen, to all of you, whether mentioned by name or not, the Eastern Cape really appreciates that you made it to this occasion. And indeed, we look forward, because when the president calls another platform of investors, we will be there to display and promote this, our province, the Eastern Cape. But for now, let's meet in our province in September 2023. Thank you very much, colleagues. You will then enjoy whatever we can enjoy here. I have spoken to some who will have some private meeting in this room at the time when we will indicate. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
We really appreciate ubukho benu. These are business people, young people. Bane chance yothetha nani ngoku apha. Bengenzanga appointment. Baze straight kuni. This is meant. Xa nisibona siphuma sigqibile. Benisithi mhlawumbe benisacinga ngalanto lamaxesha ase-Eastern Cape kuthiwa izawuqala ngo-4 iyoqala ngo-5. Hayi siqala exactly ngo-4 and siyagqiba ngexesha eligqibileyo. Enkosi.